So yesterday we covered law of sines, where we were given two angles and a missing side, and we found the two other sides and the missing angle. Now, what we're going to be doing is still using law of sines, same set of formulas, but this time we're given two sides and an angle. So what that means is we're going to be using the other formula first. Our sine of A over A is equal to sine of B over B is equal to sine of C over C. And the reason we have to do this here is because we can't use A over sine of A, B over sine of B, C over sine of C like we did yesterday. Because if I try to do that to find side length B, well, I don't have the angle opposite it. I would have two pieces of missing information. So all we have to do is we need to find an angle. Once we find one of the angles, then we can go about finding the missing side. So to do this here, it's very similar to what we did yesterday. So looking at this here, we need to find angles B or C. Which one do we need to find first? So if we find angle B, we would have what? Sine of B over B. Because the side opposite angle B is side length B. Do we know that yet? No, so how many missing things do we have already? Two. We can only solve for how many? One. So unfortunately, we can't find angle B first. But we can find angle C. Because the side length opposite C is 21. Is equal to sine. So what is the one angle that we do know? A, which is, and the side length opposite A is 26. So I would wait on typing anything in yet, because sine of 88 is a decimal. It's a non-repeating, non-terminating decimal. And really, we're solving for what? Angle C. So let's wait to get C, the angle by itself, before we type everything in. Because that way we're not trying to approximate decimals and type multiple things in as we go. Now, as we look at this here, we need to get C by itself. So let's start off first by getting sine of C by itself. And we can do. We're going to multiply both sides by 21 because these will cancel out. They will simplify out. And what that will leave us with is sine of C is equal to, I'm going to move the 21 in front, so we have 21 sine of 88 over 26. Now, what we did yesterday, that was it. We could pipe it all into the calculator and we're done. But is the angle by itself? No, we're still taking what? Sine of that angle, yes? Well, what did we have to do to get an angle out of sine, cosine, or tangent? Yes. Because sine inverse of sine of C will give me just C. Because the inverse, that sine inverse, is the only way we can get the angle out. And I'll move this up here a little bit. Is taking sine inverse. Now, what we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So we're going to take sine inverse of 21 sine of 88 over 26. Well, let's see by itself now. Well, yes, questions on this here so far? Any questions over anything we've done so far? Now, I didn't specifically write it in up here, but we're really taking sine inverse of both sides. And this would be a good spot to wait to try to type everything in, because trying to type in 21 sine of 88 over 26 and then type that into sine inverse is a little bit more difficult than just doing sine inverse of 21 times sine of 88 over 26. Type it all in at once. Any questions on how we got to this angle? Any questions on any of this here so far? We all agree with 53.8? Yes? So, angle C is 53.8 degrees. So how can I find angle B? We can add 88 and 53.8 together. 8, 1, carry the 1. And then we could subtract that from So really with this here, since we're missing two angles, all I need to do is find one of them. Once I find one of the angles, I am given the other. So we found that angle C was 53.8. Then we were able to find B as 38.2. And now all we're missing is side length B. Any questions on anything we've done thus far? Any questions on any of this here? Okay, so now we need to find the other side length. Well, we're going to use what we did yesterday. Because what we did yesterday was solving for side lengths. So I'm going to have the missing side length B over what? Sine of. The angle opposite is 38.2 is equal to 26 over sine of 88. Now we could have used 21 over sine of 53.6 or 26 over sine of 88. Either one of these will give us the exact same answer. Right, we multiply both sides by sine of 38.2. And we multiply both sides by sine of 38.2. These will cancel out, leaving us with B is equal to 26 sine of 38.2 over sine of 88. Exactly, that will give us B is 17 point. And that's it. That's all we need to do. And this is really set up the other case that we can have. Because we're either going to be given two sides at an angle or two angles and a side to be able to solve for this here using law of sine. Ah, I see. No, yeah. 16.08, yes. Thank you. 16.08, 16.1, either one of them will work. Any questions on this here? Let's look at another one, this one here. So what we need to do is we need to find one of our missing angles. So which angle would we want to find first? B. So we'll have sine of B over equals sine of And we chose B because we have the measure of the side opposite it. We have the measure of the side opposite B. So we can use this to solve. Okay, I'm going to extend the page out a little bit so I have more than enough room. So any questions on how we set this up here? Are we good with this here? Yes. Okay. Now the first thing we can do is we can multiply both sides by 24 because we're trying to get sine of B by itself first. Well, the 24 and 24 would cancel, leaving us with sine of B is equal to 24 sine of 82 over 29. So you typed in 24 sine of 82 over 29? Okay. But what are we missing? Is the angle by itself? So the angle isn't by itself yet. Because to get the angle by itself, I have to take sine inverse of both sides. The sine inverse of sine of B would give us angle B by itself. And here we would have sine inverse of 24 sine of 82 over 29. Because that's what we need to do to get the angle by itself in 55.03. So any questions on how we got angle B before we look at finding angle C? You good with this here? Okay. Come back up here. So we found angle B as 55.03. Well, we can add this to 82. Which will give us 7.03, 5. And if we subtract this from 180, 7, 9, 9, 10, so it'll give us 0.97, 42.97, yes. And that just leaves us with side length C. Any questions on any of this here so far? Okay. Now to find side length C, well, we're going to have C over sine of 42.97 is equal to, what do we want to use for the other side? I'm going to use 29 over sine of 82. Caleb, why don't you do the other one? Instead of this one here, d 24 over sine of 55.03. Okay? No, you can write that down if you want. But let's see how they work out. Let's see if they do give us the same answer. Right. Now, it's going to be interesting, and let's hit that in a minute. Let's hit that one also. So, just like the last one, we would multiply both sides by 42.97. Should cause these to cancel. You see is equal to 29 times sine 42.97 over 0.96. Okay. We had 19.96, or we could round it up to 20. So Caleb, what did you get if we use the other one? So, yes. So doing either way, we would still get the same answer. Okay. Right. Now, what I said kind of yesterday wasn't that we wouldn't want to use, or we should not use the approximations, but I would prefer not to. It's not that it won't work. It's not that it won't give us the correct answer. It might have a little bit of an error. So when we found our first angle, so let's delve into that a little bit. When we found our first angle, it was the 55.03. Let's see here, sine inverse of 29 sine of 82. I think 29 would be our 24 on top, 29 on bottom. Right, so the answer for B, angle B, if I take it all the way out, is 55.03799,204 would be our angle, yes? So I'm going to take the whole thing. Now we said to find side length, because then we found the other angle, and we could be a little bit closer to our approximation, because that would make angle C plus 82 minus 180 would make it 42.96200,769 would be our other angle. And I'm jumping through some of these steps, but to find our missing side length C, because I can use 29 and 82. So 29 sine over sine of 88, wasn't it? 82. I don't know why I'm thinking 88. That was the last problem. 82. Now, since we're finding side length C, we're going to use 42.96200,769. Because this here is a closer number to what we actually have. It's closer to the angle. Because sine or 29 times sine of 42.96200,769 over sine of 82 is 19.95811,544 is what we get. Now what we used for the other one, the first time, was 0.97. And so for our 0.97, we get 19.96110469. Which gives us an error of 0.00298924. So the amount of error that we actually have between these two answers is very small. Not enough to say it's 0 plus, it's essentially 0, but it is small enough that even to the nearest tenth or hundredth, it's not making a difference. So that's why we can do this here, because it's dealing with sine and our cosine. With these angles, the amount of error is small. But with our side lengths, it's a little bit bigger, because even with a difference of, say, 1 or 2, it can change our answer by a whole unit. Okay? Any other questions on this here? Any questions on this here? Okay. Let's see here. I want... So you don't have to write this down on your page. Kind of watch this here. We'll move it over here. 22. Okay. So again, we're given two sides and an angle. So let's find an angle. So sine of angle B would be over what? 22. Okay, that works out nicely. Now the angle that they gave us was 97, and that would be over A. Well, I'm just going to go out, write all three out here. Well, sine of C would be over. So none of these here, all three of these fractions have a missing unit of some kind, yes? So there's no way I can group any two of these and solve for one missing variable, correct? So this here, we can't use law of sines. What we're going to have to go to is law of cosines. And that's what we're going to do tomorrow, is we're going to start law of cosines.